Hello and welcome. Bienvenidos to Truth a Voz, the podcast where cultura means conciencia and we dive into honest conversations about society, justice, and the stories that shape us. I'm your host, Joanna Rosalie, and today's episode gets real about something many of us carry quietly, well, mostly until recent events that is changing. The weight of today's political climate, the cultural silence around mental health, and the complexity of being generation Latino in the US. If you've ever feel torn between two worlds, overwhelmed by the state of the world, or unsure of how to talk about mental health with your family, this is for you. Joining me today is someone whose work I have come to admire, Viridiana Zendejas, licensed. Let me go ahead and repeat this, get this right. Viridiana Zendejas, licensed clinical social worker, owner and therapist of Generaciones Counseling, a mental health private practice dedicated to providing services for Latinas, Latinos, and Latinos, navigating family expectations, generational trauma, and the otherness often experienced when raised in spaces that don't feel like their own. She has spent years helping our comunidad unpack deep rooted stigmas, navigate generational trauma, and prioritize emotional wellness in a world that often tells us to just push through. Viri, welcome to Truth Voz. Thank you so much for joining me today in the inaugural episode. How are you today?
Hola, Joanna. Thank you so much for having me. I am doing well. I'm so excited to be having this conversation. These are topics that you know, I just love to talk about. I love to bring awareness into la comunidad about mental health, emotional well-being, and specifically around nosotros, los Latinos, first generation, second generation immigrants, mixed status families. This is just something that I'm really passionate about. So thank you for the opportunity.
Of course, I just wanted to create a space where we can go ahead and come together and have these conversations. I don't think it's done enough, especially in our cultura, to have these, whether is within our peers, with our family, or just sometimes even within ourselves. So, just to go ahead and speak up and be a voice and help others, through those challenges as well.
That's right.
And then I love, your background and it just everything, we had talked just before starting the show here, how everything just aligned and it's exactly, like now to the head what you do. And I think there's no better time than now to go ahead and bring this conversation to the table.
Yeah, with everything that's happening in nuestras comunidades across the country and even just globally, I think it's so critical to be having these conversations and leaning on our community members, our families, our friends, to not feel alone in all of this. I think it's the right time.
And with that, so for many of us, especially in our community and with our folks, the current political climate feels like a constant emotional roller coaster, like you just mentioned. So now, especially with the immigration debates, whether it's physical, verbal, or otherwise, that harmful rhetoric in the news that has been exhausting. Can you just kind of fill in a little bit in that with what our cultura and our communities are facing now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit it spot on, the roller coaster. One day it's like this, the next day there's a change. It's just constant change after change after change, and it really can lead our community members to feel dysregulated and balanced. No saber how to tackle the issue, how to speak with the family about the topics, and we hear a lot about needing to unplug sometimes or having a little bit of those mental breaks. Y honestamente, sometimes that even in itself is a privilege to be able to do. Not everybody can do that or has the ability to do that, right? Or can afford to do that. Pero ahorita más que nunca, I think that's it, right? That's what they're looking to accomplish. That when we are dysregulated, when we are imbalanced, we're not able to make those decisions that we need to make to stay safe. Y ahora más que nunca, I think it's the right time to tap into our community members, into those groups, into those organizations that are there to support us. Porque when we are feeling that a little bit more regulated, we are able to be in this for the long haul. No, este es un maratón.
Mhm.
de un día para otro. And so, I think through all the chaos that we have been experiencing and the disruption and the kidnapping and all of these things that we are seeing, we're also seeing our community come together. Que sí estamos creando nuestros grupitos, that we're kindling on each other, and that's what we need to focus on. We need to focus on coming together, supporting each other, from the aids, the fundraisers, the food drives. Eso también es parte del movimiento, ¿no? Coming together as a community, for sure.
And with all of that said, there's so much that's happening. How can we navigate? How can we come together in this, political rhetoric around immigration, the identity, and specifically with civil rights? Taking a stand against, what's wrong, and there's so much, that's happening with that now, especially over the last several weeks, and it seems like it only seems to increase as days move on.
Absolutely. It does. It does. And, the biggest thing here too that I see is that no podemos estar in multiple places at once, right? There's one of us, there's a lot going on. Y en desesperación, we're trying to do as much as we can, right? But more than anything, I because I'm a mental health therapist, no, this is where I'm going to go. My go-to is check in with yourself, ¿no? ¿Qué te dice la ansiedad? ¿Qué te dice el miedo? Check in with the emotion, see what it's needing more of, right? That helps us kind of tap into this, a little bit more of this emotional regulation, right? Looking into our support groups, our community members, our families, our friends, and being able to diversify that a little bit as well. No solamente la gente, pero también las actividades, that as hard as it is, sometimes we can stay a little bit, we can stay informed while not being overly consumed. ¿No? Saber cuándo apagar la televisión o cuándo apagar el teléfono, so we can check in with ourselves and take care of ourselves first. No.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to find that balance, which I know is hard, but finding those people that can help us find that balance as well.
And with finding that balance, there's a lot that comes with that. You mentioned, caring for ourselves, protecting our mental space, protecting our loved ones. So when is it that time that that it is that you need to unplug, or also you need to show up regardless, not saying to push your feelings aside, but to still be able to go ahead and manage and be like, hey, this isn't okay. How can I still overcome what I'm feeling and take an approach, towards all the rhetoric that's occurring.
Yeah. Y sabes, it's going to look different for each person. When to unplug, how to show up. It's going to look different for each person. And I think even for that person, it will look different on a weekly basis, just because of what we're talking about, that every day seems like it's something new. Entonces, I don't have like a one solid answer for all. One size doesn't fit all. No,
right.
Todo es dependiendo de la persona, de la familia, what they're going through as well. But I think how to know when to unplug really does depend on. I really love that concept of checking in, right? What seems off within you? How's your sleep hygiene going? How's your sleep? Are you feeling restful when you wake up in the morning? How's your nutrition? Are you noticing yourself being a little bit more irritable than usual? ¿Verdad? Are you feeling a little bit of that burnout? Como, ay, tener que ir al trabajo today, right? When you start to notice these differences in your system, that's usually letting you know something's needed here. Y creo que nosotros también como Latinos, just as a community as a whole, no, we have a hard time slowing down, checking in within ourselves. ¿Qué ocupo más de? ¿Qué ocupo menos de? Right? And our bodies aren't machines. They're living, breathing systems. And if we listen, they will speak to us a su manera, right? Not in words, but they do let us know when they're needing a little bit less of, TV time, or needing a little bit more of a sleep, or of a break, or qué sé yo. So checking in, is this my usual? ¿verdad? And otra cosa que también se me hace importante comunicar es que there's more ways than one to show up, right? We don't have to do the thing that everybody else is doing or is the hottest topic, no? That we can support, that we can show up in multiple ways. We can stay informed in multiple ways también, no? It doesn't have to be this specific way because our neighbor does it that way o porque mi prima lo hace así, no? Finding what fits for you. And if this week it's A, but next week you need to do a little bit more of B, then do so, right? Until you find that perfect recipe for yourself.
Yeah, and I love that you said that because as you're saying all of this, like it's resonating with even myself have been going through and having to find those ways. Okay, yes, it's not all one size fits all, and sometimes I'm just like, you know what, I don't want to deal with any of it today. Like I just shut everything and everything off, and I'm like, okay. Sometimes it's not always possible with my field of
Right.
work, unfortunately, but you have to, find those ways. And sometimes it's like, for me, it makes it so hard to unplug and be like, I know I have to, but I also have, like, I want to stay in the know and I want to know what's happening. And then I worry about this or I worry about that. And I know and that has been the conversation with many of my friends, many of my family, especially with our comunidad being attacked, being persecuted, you
Yeah.
can say is the word. And there's a lot of anxiety with that, but a lot of people also wanting to do something about it. So with
Right.
also like, where is the line here where activism and advocacy can serve as either healing or harming on an approach?
Yeah. Y sabes, ahorita lo que se me vino a la mente es the guilt that we
Yes.
feel if we don't do what others are doing or whatnot, no? But we also have to recognize that we have our own lived experiences that get, that show up, that does get triggered, no? And so we do have to take care of ourselves first in order to be able to take care of others, no? Not reading this article today doesn't mean I don't care. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about that topic, specifically duality, no? Pero que not reading this article doesn't mean that I'm not going to show up in other ways, no? And I think advocacy has a lot of benefit. No, it has a lot of benefit porque al final del día, what we're wanting is this connection, this belongingness, this like our pain is valid, right? And it's not that our pain is bigger than others or whatever. Pain
Right.
is pain and it's all valid. No, and I think advocacy is helpful in being able to shed light on pain. And if that's something that people can relate with, and they share it and they voice it, pues nos trae mucho connection, right? We feel a lot of connection. And so I do believe that advocacy can be very much healing for us because it gives us the opportunity to build community, be together in la lucha and the fight, out there or behind the scene, right? Donating, putting together drives, connection. It brings community, it brings connection, belongingness, and that's what we need, no? And knowing that, again, like I mentioned, there's multiple ways of accomplishing that. No?
Yeah. One of the things with you saying all of this and the guilt in our generations, so many that comes with that. I know we'll somewhat go deeper into that, but one of the things that comes to mind, your first generation as well as I am.
Mm-hmm.
So we see what our families went through, what our parents went through to give us what we have, or be where we are at, for better lives, for so many things, so many reasonings behind that, what they did, and also being grateful, but also, you know, there's moments that they lived in, whether that was in Mexico, Latin America, Central America, Peru, Venezuela, wherever that may have been, you know, is there any similarities, any differences in kind of what we're going through now in this moment, in political climate, in civil rights, versus what they might have gone through in, the time that they lived in those countries and the challenges that they faced, with same civil rights and human rights and so forth.
Yeah, and absolutely. I think there's definitely a lot of differences, in how it looks, but I do think there's a lot of similarities in cuestión de how it feels, no? And the word that came up at the beginning was the otherness. No, I think many, regardless of place of origin, creo que lo que se pueden mucho relacionar is with the feeling of otherness, of like not belonging, of not having enough or having to prove, or this marginalization. No, I think that we all can relate to a certain extent to that hurt, to that feeling, to that rejection, no? Y por eso es que lo fundamental is that connection, that community, that belongingness, that humanity aspect, que tú también importas, no importa la historia, pero que sí, o sea, en la manera que se da la historia is yours, it's individual, but it matters, right? And it can look slightly different, but each one has space here, no?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I see it.
I like that, and you're touching where we're headed here next with the conversation, and that is with stigmas in our cultura.
Mm-hmm.
Also one of the things is goes alongside with that rompiendo el silencio, which we'll go ahead and get into. So I want to talk about what happens inside our homes. There's a lot of stigma around mental health with our Latino families. In your opinion, what do you think that silence? Why does it run so deep? How
Yeah.
can we start breaking that silence specifically with, people of like ourselves, first generation children of immigrants?
Yeah. Silence is oh yeah, that's deep rooted. No, it stems from many years prior. And I think that in some families that um silence can be seen almost as a way to show respect. No, si no vamos a decir nada bueno, then let's not share.
Yes.
Right? We can't be disrespectful, because if we start to talk about it, that means we are ungrateful. No, and we can't honor our family sacrifices if we're talking, negatively. Entonces todo lo que te dimos que, that kind of thing, right?
I almost want to laugh because everything that you're saying is like, oh my gosh, it's like I'm talking, like I'm hearing my family's voices in my head. It's just like, wow, like yeah,
Yeah. You're like, wait,
bizarre.
have I met your family before? No, ¿verdad? I think that we relate to that. No, and I have had those experiences in my own mental health therapy sessions with my clients where they're like, "You're sounding like my mom right now." It's like, ¿verdad? Esas son las palabras that we grow up
Yeah,
hearing, and I think we
exactamente.
can all relate to that. No, so a little bit about that, really. The silence can be seen as a form of respect. Si no sé cómo platicarlo de forma positiva, entonces mejor no lo digo, right? But silence only makes it worse, right? And I was sharing with you earlier esta palabra de duality, which I think we'll be discussing a lot here in today's episode. We have a hard time with duality as a community, Latino community, no? We see it as like, I have to be grateful for everything, o todo o nada. No,
Yeah.
if I talk negatively about an experience in my childhood, I'm again ungrateful, no, and I'm dismissing everything else that went well. Pero la realidad is that we can be incredibly grateful for a lot of the things that our parents did for us, or our family in general, no, and still have moments of our childhood that were inappropriate or not okay. No, that doesn't mean we stop loving particular parts of our childhood, ¿no? Y eso como que no existen en nuestro sistema yet, right? That's what I'm working on within my practice with my clients, is that we can love things and dislike them at the same time, the other things at the same time. One doesn't discredit the other. And so
Right.
how can we break those silences? Embracing, easier said than done, no? Embracing duality, que platicar de lo difícil doesn't mean I don't honor my family. I can love them and still speak up for the things that didn't go so well. No, because when we talk about them, we shed light on it and we heal. No, we feel heard, we feel seen, and that does wonders for us. No, so the duality piece is such a challenge for us.
It is, and I love that we're touching on this episode. I thought it was very important, and we'll get more into it here shortly. But it's it's what makes us who we are, and it's hard for many to understand. And with you speaking about the silence portion here of like why are we keep silent, or when cuando te están regañando porque no dices nada, your peers, like your friends who are not Latino, like they're not Mexicano, they're not Salvadoreño, or whatever from whatever other country they may be. We share that throughout our Latino America, and it kind of comes together. And I get asked this, and I'm like, why is that? And same thing when you avoid eye contact, you don't look directly into your elder's eyes, menos que estén regañando y they're saying every single word in the dictionary to you. And you're like, because they want your attention, and you're like, look at me, mírame en los ojos, this is important, and it's hard for others to understand, or to explain to others why that is.
Yeah, yeah.
And then even then, for them to understand it.
That's right. Y sabes, la otra parte también que me agarro pensando is that when we do talk about look at what we're doing right now. We're talking about, we're like, oh my gosh, I can relate. Oh my gosh, were you part of my childhood? How do you know this stuff?
Yeah.
Como que una parte de nosotras is witness, no? Pero it like soothes or calms down, no? And I think that when we're talking about these experiences, it's also a way of honoring our family's own experiences. ¿Cuántas veces don't you think our parents wanted to like desahogarse de lo que their parents did with them or to them, or como los regañaban? Pero dicen, no puedo decir porque pues cómo voy a decir eso de mi mamá, de mi papá, respect, etc. Right?
Yeah.
But we're doing what they weren't able to do. Right. Isn't that what breaking generational cycles is about? Doing what the last generation couldn't do, or wasn't able to do. No?
So it's so hard in so many levels. And then with that, it's also talking about generation and breaking those habits. And this is one that's going to resonate with everyone. And you're talking earlier about like pushing through and listening to yourself for what you need. Is the échale ganas mentality.
Oh, absolutely.
The pushing through, where's, resilience, when does it become when you're like repressing those, moments or emotions or feelings or needs, how can we be more aware, and how can we identify when it's like that échale ganas, so like kind of like, pushing through. But at the same time, it's like, oh no, I got this, I can do this. But then there's also like, you're just like, oh no, like you're just repressing everything.
Yeah.
It's like so much going on in that. How can we identify?
Yeah. Y sabes, I mean, these are memes, no? El échale ganas. I'm sure there's a lot of merch out there que tiene échale ganas, ponte las pilas, these famous quotes that we hear from, our families. And I'm going to speak a little bit from a different perspective. Que fíjate que este dicho, échale ganas, is actually one of our skill sets. I don't think it's a negative thing. I think it's a really positive thing, and it speaks to our resilience, our hardworking mentality. I think it's one of the things that makes our cultura so special, ¿no? Que se levantan todos los días a trabajar, hacen lo que tienen que hacer para salir adelante. And I think that's a beautiful thing about our family that is to be celebrated and honored. And no, también tenemos esto del repressing, right? And I'm such an advocate for duality, no? Okay, so what is repression? Repression is when we forcibly bury something despite it wanting to come out, right? Not verbatim the definition, pero la manera que yo lo veo is something wants to be released, pero nosotros o nosotras, nosotres estamos forzando the thing not to come through, right? Hide it. Whether it's because, and it's on purpose, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's overwhelming, difficult, hard to understand, defense mechanism, whatever you want to call it, pero we're forcing it to stay down, no? Entonces, something that we as a society are really great at are not so great at is slowing down, right? Somos mucho de echarle ganas, seguir adelante, esto, lo otro. Pero we can do a little bit of both. We can echarle ganas and not repress, right? We can work hard, but also make some space to check in and see, what do I need more of or less of, or where do I need a shift? No, porque el mentality de nada más echarle ganas is ignore everything else that I'm going through, that I'm feeling. I just need to keep going. And that's not accurate. Echarle ganas is, not see yourself as a failure because, your plant didn't grow the way you wanted it to. Pues hay que echarle ganas. A ver, ¿qué le tengo que hacer? Let me find new seeds. Let me find new water, right? But also we can check in with ourselves and saying, how am I feeling through this process? Is this hurting me or is it helping me? Is this something that I need to let go of so I can focus on other things that serve me more, right?
Mhm.
One doesn't mean the other, right? We don't need to repress in order to echarle ganas. We can
Yeah,
do both. No? Does that make sense?
it does. And
Yeah,
it's but it can also be a constant battle within yourself too.
that's right.
I know I feel it sometimes still as a grown woman. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, échale ganas, but then at the same time, it's like, yeah, you're repressing, but then you're also like, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, you know, I'm pushing it too far at the
Hmm.
same time,
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, okay, finding that balance, and I'm like, okay, am I really doing it because like le quiero echar ganas and let's do the thing, or am I just, like what's really going on here? So
Yeah.
that's one of the battles kind of being, having both worlds, being Latina and being, first generational, born in the US. So
Yeah, and something I want to add to that too is not only checking in with the feeling, but checking in with what am I saying about myself in the process. No, si no le estoy echando las ganas que yo quiero echarle, what's my self perception? How do I perceive myself by not doing A, B, or C? Right. So paying attention to my opinion. What am I saying about myself? Is it negative? Is it compassionate? No, porque podemos grieve the loss of what we weren't able to accomplish without beating ourselves up.
yeah,
No, and I think that's where we really struggle with this echarle ganas mentality that, yeah, we want to grow, we don't want to break ourselves though. Let's push
right.
to grow, not push to break. No, and taking those pauses, right, and not seeing those pauses or those redirections as failures of ourselves. Let's focus on the behavior, not the person or the character of the person. No,
Yeah,
this doesn't define me. This is a goal I had. Le voy a echar las ganas que le pueda echar. Y cuando it's taking more of me and I start to see myself in a negative light, okay, then I need to focus on something different. I need to focus on me and making sure I'm not beating myself up through the process, no, because that's not fair.
no, definitely
No.
not. And I love that you say that, because I don't think our cultura hears enough of that, and it's something that, you know, unless you do come, I'm not saying that you don't, but some of just generationally speaking, naturally having that loving, and that supportive and those positive affirmations, really don't tend to naturally come out from, at least in my instance, upbringing. And
Right.
and I hear that that's many from, in our community, in our culture. So,
Yeah.
there are some that do, and wonderful. But I think that it's not enough shared through our community. Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I explained myself well. Some days I ramble.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? Makes a lot of sense. And celebrating those accomplishments when we do achieve them, no? And accomplishments don't look just like that goal on our list, right? Going to law school, getting, married, X cosa. Accomplishments is also waking up in the morning, being able to dress
Mhm.
myself, right? Hacerme mi cafecito. That 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 is meaningful right there too. No.
Yes. Definitely. You always wanna wake up in the morning and, make sure that you made it through the next day, and then, okay, what's the next thing?
Mhm.
And here we've been talking about it, and we're gonna get deep into it now, is that first generation identity and cultural duality. So I wanna, you know, continue the conversation about that, specifically with us first generational folks. Many of us growing up, like, que no somos ni de aquí, ni de allá. ¿Te acuerdas de la película?
Ay, sí.
Not fully American, not fully whatever, insert your country, Mexicana, Venezolana, Colombiana, whatever that may be, you know, then when that translates, to neither here nor from there.
Mhm.
What impact does this have in our cultural duality, and have on our mental, emotional health? You touched on it a little bit earlier. Can you go deeper into that?
Yeah, such a huge impact because I mean, I personally identify with this, no, being Mexican American, nacida y criada aquí, pero my parents migrating here, no. Eh, it's such a challenge porque cuando lo vemos es o aquí o allá, right? One or two, this one or that one. And it goes back to this concept that we have of all or nothing, o todo o nada, ¿verdad? Or there's only space for two things, that's it, black and white, ¿no? Eh, entonces, I see this a lot with many first gens that I work with and just friends, family members, trying to fit into one or the other. I have to be more Mexican or whatever respective country that the person relates to, ¿verdad? Or countries. I have to fit in to be in, I'll use myself as an example. Tengo que ser 100% mexicana o tengo que ser 100% americana o gringa de los Estados Unidos, ¿no? Aquí.
Mhm.
No, porque somos americanos aquí, ¿no? Pero la realidad es que no es ni todo 100% acá, ni todo 100% aquí, ¿verdad? We have a beautiful blend, right? I use myself as an example. My parents were born and raised and grew up and into adulthood in Mexico. And yo siendo nacida aquí, I'm not raised like they were raised.
Mhm.
Sí, me inculcaron muchas cosas de su infancia de ellos y de sus creencias y sus valores, pero I'm not 100% de allá, pero tampoco no soy 100% de aquí. Por lo mismo, right? And even within, first gens, we're like a cultura within a cultura,
Yeah.
right? No somos, como digo, 100 y 100, o 100 o 100, o 50-50. It's it's very unique and distinct for each individual person, ¿no? Porque hay unos que son creados allá, pero son, o sea, there's so many variables and layers to the first gen experience, second gen experience, immigrant experience, ¿no? It looks so distinct. And so trying to fit into one specific mold or a 50-50 mold is impossible, no, unrealistic. And so, honestly, a lot of the work that I do is helping individuals, first gens, immigrant, second gen, regardless of the generation, discovering their own mold. What is your mold? Based on your lived experiences and those beautiful layers that your family has provided you, what is your mold? And let's help you live in that mold and mold it in a way that all of your layers can fit into it. Don't fit into the 50-50 or the 100-100, porque that's not going to be realistic for you. no, and it's based on the order of your birth from your siblings. If there's siblings in the picture, it's based on your relationship with your parents. If both parents were involved, o sea, it is so distinct. And so trying to fit it into what society says as Mexican American or American Mexican or qué sé yo, it's not going to be very feasible. It's going to be really challenging. So let's find yours and make it yours. No.
Yeah. Right now, with you saying that, there's so many things that like come up. But with this last part, one of the things that I go back to, I smile because it's from one of my favorite movies, and it's from one of my favorite cantantes, and everyone loves her. Es Selena, la película. Cuando el papá dice, que no somos de acá, no te ven de allá ni te ven de acá. You're not Mexican and you're not American. You're Mexican American, but you're like at the same time you are, but you're not.
Yeah.
And that and I love that scene because it just resonates with so many of us.
Yeah.
And as you're saying all of this, even in myself, I have 4 older brothers. Some of them were born in Mexico, raised in the US. Another one was born in the US, but the way they grew up is so different because constantemente, all going to Mexico, coming back, they had a lot of that more than I did. Yeah. I have some of that instilled in me where I did spend some of my summers there and growing up and having that culture instilled in me and everything. But then you're, trying to also embrace here cuando vas y visitas, no te ven como mexicana and they don't fully embrace you porque creciste acá en el norte and te ven con otra cara. Te ven como americana o que no eres uno de ellos. Like you're, and it's so challenging, and you're living here, you grew up here, they know that, if they know that you're from another country, whether that Mexico, donde sea, and then they're like, oh no, like igual, or you're embracing, finally, it can take, like you're saying, take some, for you to embrace your roots in who you are as in your culture, and then, and then still not being fully accepted. It's a constant battle, and then even it can go into adulthood, and it can be so challenging, and even more in these times now where people are scared to really share or embrace de donde vienen y quiénes son.
Sí. And we have to say the words perfectly, and even the Spanish, we have to understand los chistes,
la crítica.
La crítica, and we gotta be, así como dices el scene de la movie de Selena, you gotta be more Mexican than Mexicans and more American than Americans, but you're not. It's such a challenge.
Yeah.
Identity is so but totally. You're speaking it. Yeah.
I even like now I'm even living it, but it's one day at a time, which then takes me to another whole entire series on Netflix. If not, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, which I love. If not, I recommend it because along the same things we're talking about, but how do you start healing that feeling of not enoughness?
Yeah, that's such a good one, and it's gonna. I'm gonna just say it, right? We gotta stop raising the bar every time we accomplish something, porque it's okay. Logré esto. Ahora qué más? Finding the what's next. ¿Qué más puedo hacer? ¿Qué más puedo hacer? ¿Qué más puedo hacer? ¿No? And I think a lot of that does come from, family pressure también, okay, you're in high school. After high school, ¿qué vas a hacer? Well, let me get through high school first, ¿no? Oh, okay, te graduaste high school. Ahora el colegio, la universidad, ¿no? Okay, ahora te gradúas. Ahora sigue matrimonio. Después de eso siguen los niños, especially for us females, ¿no? El pressure que nos ponen.
That's a whole other story for myself.
Right? Después de eso, la casa grandota. Después un viaje. It's always chasing the what's next. No? So how do we start healing and feeling enough? No? Stop. We got to break the cycle of raising the bar every time we accomplish something. No? When we accomplish it, let's lather in it. Let's celebrate it. Let's breathe it. Let's be so proud of it. ¿no? Y como te estaba diciendo hace ratito, ¿no? Like, waking up is enough. Haciéndote tu cafecito, being able to dress yourself, finding these little things that are not so little, by the way, right? And really celebrating and being able to say, el hecho that I have the opportunity to have a conversation with Joanna today, y que she sought me out and she was able to find me and things aligned, the stars aligned. What a privilege. Oh my gosh, esta oportunidad con ella no se me va a presentar de esta manera otra vez. Let me just lather in this. What an accomplishment right now. No, soak it in, celebrate yourself. These things are enough. You are enough, tal igual como eres. No, the what's next no es solamente las metas, eso, que la casa, que el matrimonio, que los niños, que esto. You know, accomplishments are also in our character, who we are as a human. You know, how we treat people around us, the legacy we want to leave behind. Un entrenamiento que hice hace poco era the legacy that we leave behind is not the name on a building. It's how do you want to be remembered by your loved
I love
ones?
that. Yeah.
Persona que era muy carismática, siempre haciendo chistes, would always have the hard conversations. I want to be remembered like that, ¿no? Que la Viri nunca would shy away from the hard conversations. ¿No? What kind of legacy do we want to leave behind? ¿Qué queremos que digan nuestros sobrinos, sobrinas, hijos, si queremos tenerlos, right? About us, our character, our person, ¿no?
So as you're saying this, these are two words that come to mind. And this comes from just me as a time in therapy, personal development, and entrepreneurship, and learning these throughout my lifetime. Because these things are not taught in school, and I wish they would be. So many things I wish they would be taught in school. That's a conversation for another day. Pero la gratitud y la autenticidad.
Oh, so big.
And those are things that we also, our cultura didn't get, taught to us, instilled in us. And that, with what you're saying, it's like that can help to solve that not that you don't feel enough, or kind of feeling that centered in also, what would be the best way to phrase this? And identifying your identity.
Sí.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. How do you want to live your life? Authenticity. Oh my gosh, that's such a big one. Just being true to you, your values, And I think another topic that's not discussed in school, values, personal values.
Right.
Above and beyond what, we hear, like what's important to you, even when no one is looking. Values.
Yes.
What are those? Yeah, critical.
And those are the things that people will remember you for or from. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can live up to that, right? This is how I want to be remembered. And so that's kind of like my foundation, where how I like my blueprint. That's how I want to carry myself. That's how I want to be. How I want to interact with people. Yeah.
And with this, also part of your identity form, or what forms that, are your roots. So if so, how can reconnecting with your roots be part of our healing?
Yeah. I say absolutely. Y obvio que everything's not or this or that, right? Or yes or no. I think it also depends on the family and that person's experiences within that family system, no? And so I'll just speak generically. No, I think it can be very healing in the sense that it gives you a really great starting point. When you reconnect with your roots, you can discover what was there before you, no? And sometimes the why, depending, no? Maybe we can discover the why that was important to our family, no? And when we have that information, pues we take it and we make it into our own. That's like our starting point, our foundation. I love that word, our foundation. Y ya de ahí uno puede determinar, do I want to continue it just as is? Do I need to shift it slightly? We start to compare our own values that maybe we've created in our own life right? Outside of family. And we say, okay, what aligns with me well? What doesn't align so well? What do I not want to continue, right? I don't want to
Mhm.
continue the silencing of mental health challenges y cosas así, no? What do I want to continue? I want to continue the holiday celebrations. Those were so impactful in my childhood. O qué sé yo, no? But it's a great foundation, starting point, y de ahí ya empiezas a um, um, add, remove, shift, redirect. But I think it can be very healing.
I will say from my experience, and I like that you do say that you say that, and that we bring this up is with as first generational, more importantly, I
Yeah.
think in having those battles, whether it's with yourself or with even your own family, your own culture, it for me, it has helped tremendously, even into my adult years. Um, because you're still growing, you're still doing so much and trying to, there in the assimilation
Sí.
of, the cultura americana,
Mhm.
and to help with that identity, to know who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And feel I feel like this has been kind of a trend, right, in our conversation. uh, the feeling of belongingness. We all want
Mhm.
to belong. We all want to connect, no? And when we go to the start point, to the foundation, we can experience. We have the opportunity of experiencing a sense of belonging to something greater than us. La familia, the ancestors, no? Que allí están. They went through certain things. Y poder ver the transformation of our family, ¿no? Que así empezó quizás aquí y ahora acá es asá. No,
Mhm.
it's beautiful. It's phenomenal.
And then, which, this is a great segue because this is where our conversation leads into next, is exactly that internalized oppression and belonging. One of the big thing that I want to talk about and lead this off with is colorism and internalized racism within our communities. Yes, we there's so much that resonates with them, with each other within our cultures, or country to country, but then there's also that racism and that colorism that even within us we have,
Yeah.
and sometimes it can just be pushed aside, or it cannot be recognized. Um, or it can be even be dismissed.
Dismissed. Right. 100%. Y lo vemos desde la infancia. Something that I was thinking about was los apodos, the nicknames that
Mhm.
are given to kids, right? Ay, que el güerito, ay, la morenita, no? The colorism that is experienced from a very early age, and words do have impact, right? We do remember certain, we may not remember verbatim what is said, but we do remember what we feel when things were said. Y va con el
Mhm.
quote de Maya Angelou. No, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Y
Exactly.
eso, feelings get stored in our body, right? A lot of the work that I do in trauma work is helping individuals uh, heal from trauma. And I don't sit here and say, okay, let's challenge that thought of yours. It's like, where do you feel that? Where do you feel that trauma? ¿Verdad? Porque trauma is stored in the body. Y cosas que uno
Mhm.
dice a los niños a cualquier edad does get stored. And colorism, and I'm sure our family members experience that themselves in their upbringing, no? Pero that's where, you're talking about the systemic racism. It's felt in our bodies. Hay un libro tan increíble, lo tengo por aquí, My Grandmother's Hands, un libro
Mm.
it's a beautiful book. I'm going to do no justice to the author, but it's a beautiful book that talks about, how trauma is passed down through DNA. No, epigenetics, we've been
Mm.
hearing a little bit more and more about that, pero existe, no? And we heal through the body with that trauma.
Yeah, and I like that you brought that quote up, and then here's the one that as I was doing some research, and I share it here, it is colorism and racism create barriers that divide us. Together, we can break them down for equality, and which is exactly what we are facing in this moment.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. What an impactful statement there, too.
Yeah. And along with that, also come building boundaries. While also trying to stay connected with our family and heritage among, you know, all of this. How
Yeah.
can that be done?
Yes. Yeah. My bread and butter right here. What a challenge. No, this is hard. So when I say this, I don't say this lightly, well, just do this. No, nada que ver. It's something that we work through and we work through and we comb through and we comb through. I am such a fan of, like I said earlier, this duality piece. No, being able to practice, implement, and allow ourselves to make mistakes while we're trying to practice it. This concept of duality, que podemos hacer un poco de los dos, right? We can honor our family and establish boundaries, right? We can appreciate certain things of our family, but we also have things to offer. Y fíjate que ahorita I just grabbed myself, I caught myself. One of the ways that we can practice that is replacing the but with and. Bueno, mi mamá siempre me regañaba, but I'm grateful. No?
Yes.
Substituting the but for the and. No, eso lo aprendí de una de mis colegas, no? Practicing the and. Mi mamá siempre hacía esto, and I'm grateful. We can make space for both, right?
It changes the narrative.
Yeah, absolutely. It shifts the narrative and it makes space for both. Ma, I appreciate you. I love you. I am so grateful for what you're doing. And I need 3 days notice if you're going to come visit me here in my house. Right? Boundaries.
Yes.
Boundaries is a form of love, right? Boundaries is respect. Boundaries actually help our relationships grow. It doesn't separate us or create burden or walls. It actually brings us closer in a healthier way. No?
Yeah.
So practicing the and versus the but, and practicing enforcing that people do have the right to push our boundaries, but we have the right to enforce our boundaries. We can do it from a place of love with respect. No?
Yes. And I love how you mentioned that and you wrap that up nicely, and that's what the power that gives us in setting those boundaries, and like help me help you help me situation coming together, for the betterness of not only for myself, for my mental health, but also for yourself, to help you to know where I'm coming from and what I accept and I don't accept.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. I love that.
And we're we're getting here to almost the end of this conversation. I know we could continue for hours. I want to I'm gonna have to have a part 2 of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Please invite me. Please invite me.
We could just definitely go on for like 2 more hours easily. But I do want to ask in this conversation, in this takeaway, and what I want people to know is advice that you give to our cultura, to our comunidad, you know, for those that are struggling, maybe even not struggling, or maybe you're not don't know what to do, or you feel guilty or ashamed because of family pressure, or you just need some guidance, of what's happening, and how they can take the next step for finding someone like yourself.
Yeah, I love that you're sharing this, that you're asking this, porque sabes una cosa that I like to echo quite often is that when we're seeking mental health therapy services or a new service that maybe family isn't accustomed to, or maybe there's pressure to like, oh well, then there must be something wrong. No, I like to echo the message of you're doing something new, and new can feel scary, intimidating, even overwhelming. Pero new doesn't mean wrong, no? And so I also want to pair that up with it's okay not to have it figured out. No puedo contar el aumento de veces que I've had a new client call and say, I know I need therapy or I want therapy, but I don't know what next steps look like, or what am I supposed to ask you? I'm like, don't worry about it. I got you. I can help you through that process, ¿verdad? Mira, estas son las preguntas usualmente que la gente hace, and I walk them through it because it's new, not wrong, ¿verdad? So you don't have to have it figured out in order to seek it. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? A lot of us are trying to figure it out as we go as well, ¿no? Entonces, reach out and say, ¿sabes qué? I don't know what I'm trying to accomplish here, but I know that I've really been needing it. Authenticity, no? What are you struggling with? I guarantee that if you share it with someone or multiple people, they in some way, shape, or form can relate to that. No, even me as a therapist, when I sought out therapy, I was seeking therapy for the first time as a therapist myself already, no? And I could feel like, oh my gosh, this is intimidating. This is scary. What am I supposed to ask? ¿Y qué tal si dice que no sé? Right? We got to start somewhere, and it doesn't have to be perfect. How can you expect yourself to be perfect at something you haven't done before?
Right.
¿Verdad? So do it, bring yourself with, do it scared, do it nervous, pero hazlo. And find your community, people that will support you, because if you do share it, it becomes less scary. No.
Definitely.
And so reaching out, obviously they can reach out to me, even if it's not to seek me for services, but reach out to a therapist that maybe you resonate with. ¿Me puedes ayudar? I want to reach out to another therapist. I've had clients before, ¿qué preguntas hago? Mira, haz estas preguntas. Okay, great. And they go off and they find their therapist, wonderful, and they don't call me back. And that's okay, ¿verdad? Because it's not about it being with me. It's about doing it for you.
Right.
No?
And with that, I have a follow-up. One of the challenges in seeking a therapist is like a relationship. How do you know that it's a match for you? That it's gonna, whether it's working or it's not working. How can I identify that?
Yes. How are you feeling in the sessions with this person, with this therapist, right? Are you feeling heard? Are you feeling supported? Are things resonating? ¿Verdad? A veces the mind can be like, no, maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe this isn't right. ¿Cómo te sientes en la sesión, right? Is this person listening to you? Is this clinician hearing you out? Can you relate to, their vibe? Are you, connecting? It's like, and sometimes that requires trying a couple other therapists and then comparing the vibe. No, es como un par de zapatos. You're not going to buy the first one you see. You want to try them on. You want to kind of like feel them out. What's the event for? Try out a couple ones. I have had clients who go off. They terminate services with me. They go off to another therapist, and then they come back and say, you know what, esa no me acomodo muy bien. Me gustó más contigo, o X. Or they go work with me for a couple years, and then they graduate, do their own thing, find another therapist, work with that therapist on other things, and then they come back to me because another topic has come up related to the work that we've been doing. It's okay to try different therapist approaches, because we're not all the same. We all have our own personalities, our own approaches. So try it, and it's okay to change your mind and go back to the other one until you find the right fit. No.
And I have another follow-up question. This is a keyword that you mentioned in there, and it's graduating. Can you explain graduation in the therapy, or when you're in therapy?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Graduating is such a bittersweet moment, no, for clients and the therapist myself. When working with clients, graduation looks like, and it's bittersweet because pues nos encariñamos con los clientes. Yo me encariño con mis clientes se encariñan conmigo, I'm sure, right? I'm sure. Graduation looks like okay, I am feeling more emotionally regulated. And when I'm not emotionally regulated, I have the tools to assist me in regulating in ways I can. I'm showing up to therapy sessions with Vidi, and I'm not really knowing what else to talk about because we've already worked through the A, through the B, through the C. Maybe I'm ready to go try these tools on my own without her hand holding, ¿verdad? And so I call it graduation instead of termination, porque graduándose is like I've accomplished something here and I want to go and try it. Y como cualquier herramienta, sometimes we need to polish it or go back and refresh our memory on specific strategies or approaches. So I invite individuals back into therapy. Let's polish it up and then graduate you on out of here so you can go and try it on your own, ¿verdad? And people come and go as they need. No, so I love the word graduation versus terminating something. Terminating almost feels like finite, like yeah, aquí
Se
se
acabó.
terminó, se acabó, fuera. Y no es así.
No.
We don't know when we'll need it again. No, so leave the door open.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that breakdown, because I know for those that may be new to therapy or exploring, I wanted to go ahead and have this for them, or you're currently in therapy and you're not sure what this may lead, or you're unsure of where you want to go next. So before I close out the program, I am aware that you have an Hermanas healing workshop that's coming up. Can you share about that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I've been working on this workshop for. It's been a really near and dear project for me for many years. Desde que abrí Generaciones Counseling, pero por una cosa u otra, I didn't get around to launching it, and I'm finally launching it this year, this fall in August. And it's a workshop for sibling sisters that grew up having a little bit more of a mother-daughter dynamic. And I say it's near and dear to my heart porque I have sisters. And I, as the oldest daughter, I have an older brother, but as the eldest daughter, there was that dynamic of taking care of, no? And I'm sure to a certain extent, maybe your brothers can relate to that contigo,
Yes.
with each other, no? Like protecting the siblings. Y creo que such a beautiful part of our family and duality, right? And such a challenging part of our family, ¿verdad? Que we experience this role as stand-in parent, and we're the sibling as well, question mark, right? And so that relationship can get a little bit blurred or tampered with. And so then you find your siblings. Anyway, I can talk about the workshop for a long time, but it's just something that I'm really passionate about, how to assist hermanas to find that balance and shift the relationship from mother-daughter to more siblings as adults now. So that looks like improving your communication, talking about the hard things. No decir, ay, no le voy a decir a mi hermana because then she's going to get mad at me. It's saying, I'm going to share this with sister because it's important to me. ¿Verdad? Yeah. And how to find ways to bond. So it's a 4-weekend workshop starting in August, Saturdays, August 2nd, 9th, 16th, and 23rd from 10 to 11:30 a.m. And it's going to be the launch. I am going to be offering it again in the spring of 2026, and I'm hoping to make it a recurring workshop for siblings and starting to heal those relationships amongst our Latina hermanas.
I love this. When I came across this, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have her I'm gonna ask her about it. She's gonna promote it. I'm gonna help her promote it. I'm gonna do what I can to put it out there. The deadline is approaching here. July 14th is
July
the last
14th.
day to register for those that are interested.
Yeah.
So I will go ahead and push this out to make it
Thank
go as
you.
well, and you can have attendance.
Y si no se pueden registrar for this go round, it's coming back again in the spring of 2026, and we'll make some accommodations, some changes based on feedback that we've already received from many sisters in the
I am
community.
so excited for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I want to say thank you, Viri, for joining me in this conversation today. Not only me, but our listeners or viewers, if you're watching on YouTube channel as well, for all of your insight, your compassion, your truth, exactly what we need in our community right now. So gracias for showing up for us.
Thank you. Y muchas gracias por la oportunidad and for holding this space for our community members and for us, for you and me. So gracias.
Yeah, of course. Anytime. Happy to do it again. Like I mentioned, we'll go ahead and do part 2 soon. And I want you to share where our people can find you, where our comunidad can go and look for you. You follow your work, get in touch, everything.
Yeah, I'm mostly active on Instagram at Generaciones Counseling, all spelled out together. Um, uh, my website, www.gencounseling.net. I'm really, really active with a lot of the followers on Instagram for social purposes, not for mental health therapy services specifically, obviamente. So yeah, give me a little follow there, and hago a veces some silly videos, but also very informational videos también.
Here we go. You are a voice definitely in our comunidad that I think we need more like yourself to share this knowledge, and to help us grow stronger. Again, thank you, Vidi. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure también.
We'll talk again soon. And to all of you listening or watching us, thank you for coming in and for also sharing the space with us. If today's episode did resonate with you, you can go ahead and share it with a friend. Make sure that you also follow us wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You can find more stories, updates, and reflections on Truth and Voz and other community news at embrevenews.net. You can follow myself on social media at J Rosalie. That's JROSALYE. Until next time, cuídense mucho and remember, tu voz tiene poder.